USC's offense in 2025. Concerned? Not concerned? Will it bounce back?
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. Whether you are watching the show on YouTube, you can pick your platform, you can download this podcast, and you go, wow, it's free. And you're also going to always know that I'm going to appreciate your support. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head on over to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. USC finished with the 51st ranked scoring offense last year. Just a little over 30 points per game, 30.2 to be exact. In 2023, despite winning just 7 regular season games, USC still scored almost 42 points per game, 41.8. In 2022, when USC won 11 games, just missed making the playoffs when Caleb's hamstring ruptured on him, so to speak. USC's offense, they scored 41 points per game. Now, I want to take you back to when Lincoln Riley was the head coach at Oklahoma. Look at these numbers. In 2021, his last season there, they were scoring 39 points per game. Okay, that was his lowest output at Oklahoma. In 2020, 43 points. 2019, 42 points. In 2018, his team scored 48 points per game. 89 touchdowns through 14 games. That's 6 touchdowns per contest. And then in 2017, his first season as their head coach, 45 points per game. I'm not sure what happened in 2024. We know that since he was at USC, that was his first year without Caleb Williams, obviously. It was his first year. I guess maybe Lincoln Riley didn't have a quarterback that was made for his system, what he was used to. It was the first time he had an offense that scored less than 41 points per game. I think I mentioned 39. So first time he had a 39, 41, 40, whatever. 2024 was his lowest output as far as, team scoring. Barely over 30. That's a significant drop-off, even if we go with the 39 points. That's more than a touchdown difference. But again, let's remember, it was Riley's first season at USC without Caleb Williams, so he had that comfort zone. It was USC's first year in the big conference, so Coach Riley was kind of getting the hazing treatment, so to speak, with the big, at least from the officiating. Some of those games were BS. You have the new clock rules that came into effect, which also I think Coach Riley struggled with at times. And like I said, there was a learning curve last season, moving over to the big conference. Coach Riley knows your offensive lineman, you're allowed to hold with regularity. Like I said, they found out the hard way how things are done. So since you can, well, you're not supposed to be holding, but since they seem to allow it can get away with it, I anticipate USC's offense bouncing back a little bit. I also anticipate seeing more running, especially until Coach Riley has full confidence in the quarterback situation. Look, if you haven't heard by now or you missed yesterday's episode of Locked on USC, why'd you do that? Never do that. Always show up for Monday's episode. There's going to be a bunch of news for you. But if you did not, so you missed this. I told you, I gave a review of USC's spring game. USC's defense, they literally treated the USC offense like a redheaded stepchild. It was, they had their way. Yeah. I told everyone that Jaden and Husan, they each had 1 interception apiece early. Well, I'm going to give you the full Monty right now. Taking it all, I'm exposing it. And this is according to multiple reports. There were a total of 5 interceptions combined between those two quarterbacks. A couple of them were tip passes. Nevertheless, that's 5 picks. So with that being said, there is a reason to be concerned, at least a little bit, right? Just a little bit. Riley needs to, get that quarterback situation settled down. We know Jaden Mayaba is going to be QB1 at the beginning of the year. He's earned it. He's deserved it. He was the better of the two between the two quarterbacks. Not saying who threw the most interceptions, but he, I guess, if you had to pick one who had a better day, most would say give it to the incumbent. The offensive line, it needs to be ready to play against someone else who's not as good as USC's defensive line. That's what they've been going up against. So remember, last year, the defense, USC's defense, which is, I know some people say it wasn't good. They look at they were ranked 70 something, whatever. I look at they gave up 24 points per game. That's the only stat that matters to me when it comes to defense. Yeah, you want other stats to be better. But end of the day, it's the number on the scoreboard. I'll take a USC defense that's only giving up 24 points per game when you have your typical Lincoln Riley offense doing what it's supposed to do, which is score at least 35, 38, 39 points per game, minimum. So last year, Coach Riley's offense, it slipped. We can admit that it did not look like your typical Lincoln Riley offense. And I mentioned some of the reasons why. Quarterback play obviously didn't help. Very inconsistent. Play calling inconsistent. Clock management inconsistent. New rules. So last year, the defense, as good as they were, giant strides. They got beat up. They got worn down as the season went on. You got into middle of October into November. Yeah, you were missing guys. You had one guy who quit. You had Anthony Lucas, who was hurt. Eric Gentry, who was hurt. USC had no margin for error. Once your key guys went down, the backups just weren't as good as the guys in front of them. That's why they're backups, right? But now the defense is much, much deeper. I didn't give you 3 muches yet. It's much, much deeper. I'm not ready to go full much for the emphasis. If you watch the show regularly, you understand where I'm going with that. 3 times for emphasis. So yes, they're deeper, they're better, more talent across the board. They're making Coach Riley's offense work their butts off. But I think the days of scoring 40 plus points per game, especially in the big conference, I think those days are over. And again, I'm fine with that. Give me 35 to 38 points per game. Okay. If you give me 35 points, that's 5 touchdowns. You give me 38, you're giving me 5 plus a field goal. Would I prefer 6 touchdowns? Sure. But let's talk in reality right now. Again, you have those new clock rules. The games are technically a little bit shorter. Clock's just moving quicker. So if USC's defense is that good, that's going to be more than enough. If they match last year's 24 points per game and they improve it by a field goal, by 4 points, are you going to be upset if USC's defense is only allowing 20 points per game? Really? I hope nobody's upset with that number. If USC's defense is that good, that's going to be more than enough. And who's going to be upset if it's the defense that carries the team in 2025? The offense is just there to support them. Here's the points. Here's everything you need. Now go make the stops. That's the way it should be, right? We're going to find out. Like I said, there's some things to be concerned about, but I wouldn't, start white-knuckling it. Wouldn't start gritting your teeth. Wouldn't go into cold sweats. Have nightmares. Coach Riley, he'll get the quarterback situation figured out. Play to their strength. Not try and force his system onto the player, which I think was played a little bit of a role last year as well. So we'll see. I anticipate more running to set up the pass. So run, play action, run, play action, and then just let Jacoby and Mackay do what they do best. By the way, if you haven't been on social media, go to X, check out Hunter Eccles, former Trojan. He has an opinion on Jacoby Lane. Pretty funny to watch. It's a good opinion, but it's fun to watch. So go check that out. I got a couple more segments for you here. I got some recruiting news. And then I wore this sweatshirt for a reason. We're going to talk about the Rose Bowl in the third segment. So stick around. There is nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Hey, you can go to Crypto, Staples, whatever they're calling it. Go check out the Lakers, the last game of the year. They're down 3-1 to Minnesota. But every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. So if you want to go check out the Lakers' last game of the year, yeah, I'm calling it. They're not going to win. Get with Game Time. You can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast. It makes it easy. And you're going to get your playoff tickets even when demand is sky high. Here's why you're going to love using Game Time. Priority last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets, whether it's sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you want to do. If you wait to the last minute, sometimes procrastinating works out for you. You can save up to 60% off. And when you use Game Time, you're going to get peace of mind because with the seat views before you buy, there's no surprise fees, and you're going to get the lowest price guarantee. So you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON, college, COLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So I got some early week recruiting updates for you now that spring camp is over. If you're watching this episode on Tuesday, no one's committed this week yet. I'm not saying someone's going to commit. I'm just saying no one's committed yet. By the way, quick note here you should know about the coaches. Yeah, they're about to hit the road again. Start making visits. That's going to start up here in the next, I think I want to say the second. I should have looked up the date before I came on started the show, but real soon, the coaching staff will be on the road making visits. But again, when that happens, and I have their schedule, I'll let you know who's going where, when they're going. But again, that doesn't mean there isn't some news to talk about with recruiting. This isn't really necessarily bad news. However, Haven Finney, the cornerback, defensive back from Sierra Canyon, he committed to LSU on Monday. I think everyone needs to come to grips here. USC wasn't going to get everyone from the state of California in 2026. They're going big, but they just don't have enough room. And there's some other stuff involved as well that they have to take into consideration. So, look, the talent level is just crazy, stupid loaded in California, especially in the secondary defense in general. Secondary defensive line, it is heavy in the state. So a couple things to keep in mind here, at least with regards to Finney. Number one, USC was a little slow to the party, making him feel like USC wanted him. And the reason being, and I'm not making an excuse for the staff, but pardon me. Haven was originally a 2027 target. So he was a number 2 cornerback in the 2027 class, but he reclassified. So now he's a part of the 2026 cycle. I don't think USC was prepared for that. until it happened. And then they were trying to get back into the game as quickly as possible. But these are the guys that USC, is still going after 2026. So they don't get Haven Finney, but David Benjamin is still out there. You've got Albert Hill, which USC is in a really good spot for, the cornerback from the state of Ohio. You got Brandon Arrington, the number one athlete. By the way, Brandon released a statement. He put it out on social media. He's making his commitment July 5th. And he's narrowed it down to these 5. Alabama, Oregon, Penn State, Texas A&M, and USC. It's interesting that he made this announcement right after he got back from Eugene, Oregon. Lately, when players come back from taking visits to Eugene, it doesn't work out for Oregon. Just saying. Didn't work out well for Cody Green. Jonas Williams eventually flipped to USC. Tom eventually flipped to USC. So anytime somebody takes a visit to Oregon, Duck fans are like, uh-oh, they made an announcement. What does it mean? It's usually not good. But so those are the 2026 guys who weren't reclassified. That's why USC's been focused on those guys the most. Not to mention, this is the other thing. Look, Haven and LSU, they've been playing footsie for a while now. LSU spotted him early. They wanted him early. They made him feel real welcome, like he was a number one priority. So whether or not USC slow played him in 2024 when the recruiting process started, during that time, he was going to Baton Rouge multiple times. So USC's had some ground to make up. But again, I just want to remind everybody, it's not like USC is scraping the bottom of the barrel right now for cornerbacks. Remember, these guys are already committed. You've got the number 1 guy, RJ Sermons. You've got the number 2 guy, Brandon Lockhart. You've got athlete Joshua Holland. You've got Madden Reardon, who all he does is make interceptions. And I mentioned USC's in a good spot for Albert Hill. Well, they're crystal balled for the best cornerback out of the state of Ohio. Let's stick with Sierra Canyon. Another guy who was originally a 2027 recruit. Vinny's teammate, Richard Wesley, the defensive lineman, edge guy. Well, he got a Fong bomb, a Steve Wiltfong Fong bomb. He's crystal balling him to Oregon. Yeah, well, look, USC wanted him. They wanted him, and they were willing to pay whatever that price tag was going to be in 2027. USC they couldn't do it this year. They have a strategy. They have their eye on the guys they need for this class, guys who are ready to contribute sooner rather than later. And again, Wesley was probably a guy who isn't ready to contribute right away when he gets to college. He's not in that same Samodi Kataonga or Jakeem Stewart mold. Good player, don't get me wrong. But again, he was 2027. He reclassified to 2026. And there's speculation. A big reason is he wants to get paid. He wants to take advantage of the rules before there are rules. I guess that's the best way to put it. But again, they're in the driver's seat right now when it comes to defensive line recruits. Again, they're not hurting at all. They're in line for a lot of other guys. But I mentioned Samodi. He's committed. He's a better prospect. He's for those who look at the star ranking and all those types of evaluations, he's rated higher. Tom, enough said. You got Jamian Winfield from Texas. You got Braden Jones from Chicago. You got Jake Johnson from Texas. Andrew Williams from LA. Malik Brooks from LA. And as I said, USC's in play for quite a few other guys as well. You got a local kid from Sarah, Gardena, Kari Wilder. You got a couple of other guys. You got Dominic Coleman Brusa from the state of Washington. You got Luke Waffle from New Jersey, who kind of reminds everybody of Brian Cushing. USC's defensive line room right now, today, it's stacked. They're not hurting. Again, they're not begging for guys. In fact, it's the opposite. Guys are like, hey, you got room for me. USC is going to have a monster high school class. Target number is 35. They could go higher, depending on how things shake out. I mentioned there's a guy in 2026 who's trying to reclassify for 2025. We'll see if that happens. That opens up a spot. I'm not telling you who it is. Be patient. Those types of things, that news usually breaks on its own. So again, you want Richard Wesley. You want Haven Finney. But none of it puts USC in a tough place for other guys that they need. Had those guys been originally scheduled for 2026, who knows how it plays out. But they were 2027 recruits who reclassified, and USC had already kind of, had their board set up. And there's not enough time to kind of reshuffle it. Especially when you're talking about, NIL money. Excuse me, I had to take a drink there. All right, we got one more segment to go. I want to talk about the Rose Bowl and the playoffs. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team, diving into those player prop bets. Check this out. You can bet on anything from who's going to make the most three-pointers, the steals, who's going to have the most assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player prop bets. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine your live prop bets into a same-game parlay, and that's going to give you a huge chance to win bigly. So don't miss out. Head on over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Do you know who is the happiest that the Rose Bowl and the bowl games in general are kind of being excommunicated from college football? Losing their luster, being neutered. Nothing, this is how I grew up. Nothing in my mind was better than New Year's Day. I mean, you started off early in the morning with the Rose Bowl parade, and then you knew all day long college football. You had, at one time, you had the Orange Bowl, you had the Sugar Bowl, you had the Rose Bowl, all in the same day. I think even the Cotton Bowl was in there too. Yeah, there was a time when they were all played January 1st. Tradition. It was part of college football. It was part of the DNA. You looked forward to it every single New Year's Day. So, ironically, check this out. The big conference, I think, is probably the happiest that the Rose Bowl isn't a matchup between the Big Ten and the Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-8, whatever. Did you know that there are only 4 teams in the conference as it currently stands with a winning Rose Bowl record? Yeah. You know who one of them are. So Illinois, they're one. They have a 3-2 record. Michigan State, they're 4-1. They've actually had good success in the Rose Bowl, including against USC. Ohio State, they're 10-7. And of course, USC, 25-9. You can't spell domination without saying USC in the Rose Bowl. It's just right there. Everyone else in the conference, everyone else is 500. They have a 1-1 record, 0-0, or they have a losing record like Michigan, who was 9 wins, 12 losses. Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Wisconsin, they've been there 10 times, but they've only won it 3 times. 3-7. This is why I think no one is upset that USC is repping the Big Ten Conference anymore. They all of a sudden, they found 25 wins in there. Where'd those come from? Oh, USC brought them along. I think the Rose Bowl itself, and the Rose Bowl is doing it to itself, it's putting itself out to pasture. It's like, you know what? Yeah, we're done. We're going to look at our golden years and just kind of eat grass, watch the sunset. With the demise of the Pac-12 conference, the Rose Bowl became part of the playoff semifinal rotation. That's about to change, at least to an extent. It's still going to be involved with the playoffs, just at a lesser level. Let me explain. Here's the deal. The Rose Bowl game requested to be removed from the semifinal rotation. Why? Tradition. So you have the expansion of the college football playoff. It's forcing changes to the postseason. They got to move the schedule up a little bit. So now you're going to have the first round playoffs. Those start in late December. You got the quarterfinals now are going to be around New Year's Day, and the semifinals are getting pushed back to the second week of January. So that kind of made the Rose Bowl have to make a decision. Their organizers, they had to decide whether to keep their game on its traditional New Year's Day date or stay in the semifinal rotation. And they made the decision. They chose New Year's Day. They made the choice. Look, I love that the Rose Bowl, I love that the folks who run the Rose Bowl chose tradition over being part of the national championship rotation, so to speak, the semifinals. But it also means, at least in my mind, that winning the Rose Bowl is just a step towards the semifinal. It doesn't carry that same, vibe, that same swag, that same importance. And check this out. There's one more change that's coming to the Rose Bowl game itself. And this one's a little bit more subtle. The Rose Bowl has always kicked off, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, West Coast time. It's a little bit after 2 p.m. In 2026, the next time the Rose Bowl kicks off, it's going to kick off around 1 o'clock. You're saying, well, what's the big deal? It's only an hour earlier. Well, here's the big deal. The second half of the Rose Bowl game, that's when the ambiance starts to kick in, the aesthetics, what makes it so special, especially if you're a fan in the stands. In the second half, usually you're starting to get around sunset time. Third quarter, the sun starts setting on the San Gabriel Mountains. You get those different colors. Look, it's really hard to describe unless you've seen it before. It's special. That's all I can say. It's really, really special. It's part of the charm. It's why the Rose Bowl is considered the granddaddy of them all, because it offers so much more than just football. Look, the fans are still going to get to enjoy it, but with the start time moved up, it'll be more like around the fourth quarter. So I don't know. It's kind of like waiting for the lighting of the torch at the Coliseum. You got to wait till the start of the fourth quarter now. Similar things going to happen with the things that made the Rose Bowl kind of special. But again, this was their choice. I don't think it was their choice to kick off at an hour earlier, but it is what it is. TV networks make those decisions. It's just one more petal off the rose, just a little bit less tradition. Every year, more and more of it's being stripped away. Makes me a little bit sad. But again, the Rose Bowl. Anytime USC plays in it, I'll be there. All right. You know where else I'll be? I'll be here tomorrow with another episode of Locked on USC. So will you. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, you should click that red subscribe button. It's free. And I want you to smash that thumbs up. Both of those mean a lot to the show. And because you're not going to want to miss any information, click that bell notification. That way you'll always know. You'll always be ready for another episode of Locked On USC. So until that next episode, tomorrow, everyone, you know what to do.